students, good morning. This is LGR once again. Yesterday we have learned some portion. Let us continue the topic, human digestion and absorption. Let us continue with tongue. Tongue is the freely movable. It is a freely movable muscular sense organ. Muscular sense organ. It is one of the sense organs. There are 5 sense organs. Among those, tongue also a kind of sense organ. Then, tongue attached to the floor of oral cavity. Floor of oral cavity with the help of a small fold of tissue that is nothing but frenulum. Frenulum is a small fold of tissue by which the tongue attached to the floor of the oral cavity or buccal cavity. There is a difference between tongue of man and a frog. In man, the tongue is anteriorly free, posteriorly attached. But in case of frog, tongue anteriorly attached, posteriorly free. On the surface of the tongue, there are numerous projections. These small projections are nothing but papillae. In man, there are 3 kinds of papillae. 3 kinds of papillae. These papillae located on various regions of the tongue. Let us go with the diagram. Yeah, this is the tongue. The basal part of the tongue is divided into 2 regions, 2 parts by a V-shaped, inverted sulcus terminalis. Sulcus terminalis, it is a V-shaped furrow which divides the basal part of the tongue into 2 regions. This is called as pharyngeal part. This is pharyngeal part and this is oral part. So, pharyngeal part and oral part. At the center of the sulcus terminalis there is a aperture. This is nothing but a cecum, foramen of cecum. Foramen of cecum. So, in the pharyngeal part there are 4 kinds of papillae. Here there is a kind of papillae. This is named as lingual tonsil. Lingual tonsil. Here there is a kind of papillae that is called as a pharyngeal tonsil. Pharyngeal tonsil. So, in the pharyngeal part of the tongue there are 4 kinds of papillae. Pharyngeal papillae, lingual papillae. At the same time, here one more tonsil that is called as palatine tonsil. Palatine tonsil. Yeah, pharyngeal tonsil, palatine tonsil and lingual tonsil. Come to the oral part. On the oral part I told you already there are 3 kinds of papillae in man. Here at the basal part of the tongue, circumvallate papillae. Circumvallate papillae. These circumvallate papillae are the largest papillae with taste buds. They have taste buds. Come to the one more. At the anterior region and the tip of the tongue. At the anterior region and tip of the tongue, there is a fungiform papillae. Fungiform papillae. So, fungiform papillae also having taste buds. And one more thing, on the surface of the tongue, there is a filiform papillae. Filiform papillae, these are the smallest and most abundant. Smallest and most abundant papillae, and they don't have taste buds. Taste buds are absent in filiform papillae. So there are around more than 10,000 of taste buds on the surface of the tongue. Taste buds can detect the taste of the food materials. And one more papilla also there, that is called as foliate papillae. Foliate papilla absent in man. Absent. On surface of the tongue there is a kind of gland that is nothing but Ebner's gland. Ebner's gland secrete lingual lipase. Lingual lipase is a kind of lipid digesting enzyme, but this lingual lipase only seen in infants. In adult condition, the Ebner's gland become inactive. So lingual lipase only seen in infants. It is a fat digesting enzyme. And some other general points regarding tongue. Tongue acts as universal toothbrush, and it helps in tasting of the food materials and detection of the taste, and also helps in speaking. And one more important role of tongue is deglutition. Deglutition means swallowing. Swallowing. So by swallowing, the food is ingested into the pharynx, then it enters into the esophagus. Deglutition begins as a voluntary action in the mouth, but later it was continued as involuntary action. Initially voluntary action, then involuntary action. Yeah. And here one more thing. Here a kind of gland is present, and here also two kinds of glands are present. They leads into the oral cavity. Yeah. So let us go with human digestive system diagram. The digestive system associated with alimentary canal and associated glands. The first part of the alimentary canal is mouth. Mouth is the anterior opening, and this is anus. It is the posterior opening of alimentary canal. In between mouth and anus there are various regions. Mouth leads into oral cavity. This is oral cavity. I told you already, in the oral cavity there is a tongue. This is tongue, and teeth also present. And near the oral cavity there are three kinds of glands. This is called as a parotid gland. I will explain about all these glands clearly with the help of diagram later. And these are sublingual and submaxillary glands. Combined labeling is given in NCERT. Later, this is palate. As I told you already, the palate, it is a hard bony plate which divides the above nasal cavity from below oral cavity. The palate is of two types, hard palate and soft palate. The soft palate nothing but uvula. It's not vulva, it is uvula. Vulva is different. Vulva is a part of female reproductive system. That is nothing but external genitalia in case of female. But this is uvula. And then the oral cavity leads into short pharynx. Yeah, pharynx. Yeah, let us go with the pharynx. The pharynx is a small junction. It is a small junction which is a common passage for both nasal cavity and oral cavity. So both food and air passes through the pharynx. So it is a common junction for both food and water. In the pharynx there is a lymphoid tissue. The lymphoid tissue present in the pharynx is called as tonsil. As I told you already, there are four kinds of tonsils. So I will show the arrangement of these tonsils with the help of Waldeyer's ring. Waldeyer is a scientist. He described the arrangement of the four kinds of tonsils in the pharynx. Yeah, this is Waldeyer ring. here, and these are named as a pharyngeal tonsil or nasopharyngeal. Students, are you listening? Nasopharyngeal, and it is also called as adenoids. But the most important point is it is unpaired. It is a single tonsil. And come to here. Yeah, this is tubal tonsil. And this is palatine tonsil. The palatine tonsil also named as a facial tonsil. And the last one is lingual tonsil. So it is the arrangement of 4 kinds of tonsils in a ring-like manner, and it is named as Walde's ring. The tonsils are the lymphoid tissues, so they can produce lymphocytes. So it is a part of lymphatic system. Pharynx is divided into 3 parts by soft palate. The soft palate divides the pharynx into 3 parts. The first one is nasopharynx, and second one oropharynx, and third one laryngopharynx. So nasopharynx, oropharynx and laryngopharynx. The nasopharynx lies above the soft palate. It lies above soft palate, and it is the middle part, and it is the lower part of pharynx. And the most important thing is, from the pharynx region, 2 important tubes arises. One is esophagus. The esophagus is nothing but a food pipe. It is a food pipe, and this is trachea. The trachea is a windpipe. So two different pathways arises from the region of pharynx. That's why it is named as common junction for both food pipe and air pipe. And the opening of the trachea is named as glottis. And the most important point, as per NCERT, esophagus and trachea opens into pharynx, particularly into laryngopharynx. And the opening of the trachea is named as glottis. So glottis is protected by a cartilaginous flap which is named as epiglottis. Epiglottis is a cartilaginous flap. It is a kind of elastic cartilage which guards the opening of trachea. So during swallowing of the food, the epiglottis closes the glottis. So thereby it prevents entry of food into the windpipe. So the food is directly allowed into the esophagus, because esophagus is the food pipe. The food must be enter into the esophagus. And then come to esophagus. Esophagus. As I told you already, pharynx play very important role in swallowing. In pharynx, voluntary muscles are present. Voluntary muscles. These voluntary muscles assist in deglutition or swallowing. Swallowing started as a voluntary action, but later it was continued as involuntary action. Come to esophagus. Esophagus is a long, thin, tube-like structure. It is a long, thin tube-like structure, runs posteriorly through the neck, trachea, through the neck and chest cavity and through the diaphragm. Finally, it enters into the stomach. So, esophagus is characterized by, there are some important points. It is characterized by absence of visceral peritoneum. Absence of visceral peritoneum. What is visceral peritoneum? Visceral peritoneum nothing but serosa. It is outermost layer of alimentary canal. So serosa is absent in esophagus, and it is also characterized by presence of mucus secreting goblet cells. The goblet cells secrete mucus. Mucus acts as a lubricant. It helps in lubrication of the food. So the food easily passes through the esophagus. Then no digestive glands. On esophagus, no digestive glands. So no enzymes produced by the esophagus. And one more thing, it has both voluntary and involuntary muscles. Both voluntary and involuntary muscles. The voluntary muscles located at anterior 1/3 of esophagus, and involuntary muscle fibers located at posterior 2/3 of esophagus. So finally, the esophagus leads into a J-shaped stomach. J-shaped stomach. Come to stomach. Stomach is a J-shaped muscular bag like structure lies in the upper left portion of abdominal cavity just below the diaphragm. The stomach has 4 parts. It has 4 parts. And come to the diagram. Yeah, it is the diagram of anatomical regions of stomach. The first part, the first part is esophagus, but it is not a part of stomach. Esophagus enters into the stomach. The stomach is divided into 4 parts, as I told you already. The first one is cardiac part, and this is fundus part, and this is body. It is the main central part. And the body leads into pyloric stomach. This is a pyloric stomach. So cardiac stomach, fundus, body, pyloric stomach. The esophagus leads into the first part of the stomach, that is called as a cardiac part. The opening of the esophagus into the cardiac part is guarded by sphincter. Sphincter is a ring of muscle. It is a ring of muscle. So which sphincter that is a cardiac sphincter. The cardiac sphincter guards the opening of esophagus into the first part, the anterior part of the stomach, and the pyloric stomach leads into the first part of the small intestine, which is nothing but duodenum. So the opening of the pyloric stomach into the duodenum is guarded by one more sphincter. This is named as pyloric sphincter. So the sphincters mainly guards the opening of one part into the another part. The cardiac sphincter, also named as gastroesophageal. It is also named as gastroesophageal. Gastroesophageal sphincter. So come to the the stomach, the wall of the stomach, on the wall of the stomach particularly gastric glands are present. Gastric glands. We will discuss later about gastric glands in coming classes. Then the stomach produces a kind of enzyme that is called as pepsin, renin, and small amount of gastric lipase. Gastric lipase, yeah, we will discuss about all these enzymes and gastric glands in the coming classes. Then small intestine. The small intestine is very longest part of the alimentary canal. It is of around, it is about 6.5 meters long, and it is a long tube-like structure. It is serially divided into 3 parts. It is the principal site of digestion, and it is divided into 3 parts. The first part of the small intestine is duodenum. This is duodenum. The duodenum is a C-shaped organ. Then the duodenum leads into long coiled jejunum. Then the jejunum leads into highly coiled ileum. Ileum eventually leads into the large intestine. Come to the duodenum. Duodenum is a C-shaped part, as I told you already. It receives pancreatic duct from the pancreas and a common hepatic duct from liver and gallbladder. The common hepatic duct and the cystic duct of the gallbladder unite and form the common bile duct. The common bile duct eventually unites with the pancreatic duct and forms the common hepatopancreatic duct. The common hepatopancreatic duct leads into the duodenum. Right? Yeah. Then come to large intestine. Large intestine. The large intestine is the largest part. It is the largest part of alimentary canal. It is of 2.5 to 3 meters. 3 meters long. It is present in the lower abdominal cavity. The large intestine is serially divided into 3 parts. The first part is named as a cecum, and this is called as a colon. The colon is histologically divided into, not histologically, anatomically it is divided into 4 parts. This is ascending colon. Ascending colon. The ascending colon, it is the smallest part of colon, smallest. Ascending colon leads into transverse colon. This is transverse colon. The transverse colon leads into descending colon. The descending colon leads into sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon. The sigmoid colon eventually leads into a small dilated sac, that is rectum. Rectum. As per NCERT, the descending colon opens into rectum, sigmoid colon. So there are 4 parts in the colon: ascending colon, transverse colon, descending colon, and sigmoid colon, which continued as rectum. The rectum opens out through the opening that is called as anus. I told you already, it is the posterior most opening of alimentary canal. Then from the cecum, a small blind sac-like structure arises. Cecum is a small blind sac-like structure. From this, a small coiled tube-like structure arises. This is named as abdominal tonsil. Abdominal tonsil. Actually, it is named as vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix. Vermiform appendix, also referred as abdominal tonsil, because on the wall of vermiform appendix, a kind of lymphoid tissue is present. So lymphocytes also produced by the vermiform appendix, but it is generally actually considered as a vestigial organ. Vestigial organ. In man there are around 180 vestigial organs. So among 180, it is one of the vestigial organ. The vermiform appendix, it is of 8 centimeters long. And come to the cecum. The cecum, it is a small blind sac-like structure. The cecum has symbiotic microorganisms. Symbiotic microorganisms. What is meant by symbiosis? Symbiosis means it is a mutualism. So both the organisms, in this association, both the organisms are mutually benefited. So man and E. coli bacteria. The man provides food and shelter to the E. coli bacteria. In turn, E. coli bacteria helps in the synthesis of certain vitamins like B1, B2, B12 and vitamin K. So both the organisms are mutually benefited in this association. So this is called as symbiotic organisms. So some symbiotic microbes seen in the cecum. Cecum leads into the colon. Yeah, last part of the colon is sigmoid colon. Sigmoid colon leads into the rectum. The rectum is a small dilated sac. Through anal canal, it enters into the anus. Come to the anal canal. Anal canal. The anal canal, the inner part of anal canal guarded by smooth muscles. Smooth muscles, inner wall or the inner region, inner part, and the outer part, the external part of anal canal guarded by striped muscles. Yeah, striped muscles. So the anal canal has both smooth muscles and striped muscles. The anal canal eventually open out through the anus. Anus is the last part of the alimentary canal. So this is about human digestive system. Human digestive system means it has alimentary canal and associated with different types of glands like liver, pancreas and salivary glands. Come to colon. The colon has three important characteristics. One is haustra, and the second one is Taenia coli, and the third one is epiploic appendages. Epiploic appendages. Come to the astra. Astra are external bulged out pouches. These are external bulged out pouches lies on the wall of the colon externally. Come to Taenia coli. Histologically, the colon has three longitudinal muscle fibers. Three longitudinal muscle fibers. The three longitudinal muscle fibers are present on the wall of the colon named as Taenia coli. And come to epiploic appendages, these are fat filled regions found on the wall of the colon named as epiploic appendages. So these three structures characteristically found in the colon. Students, one important point I forgot to tell you, that is Sarpase fibers. These Sarpase fibers present from the periodontal membrane. Periodontal membrane to dental wall. To dental wall. The main function of the Sarpase fibers is these fibers can fix the root of the tooth firmly in the socket of the jawbone. So this point related to tooth. Very important point for exam point of view. Sarpase fibers. Please note this. So far we have discussed the structure of human digestive system. Now come to the associated glands, digestive glands. Digestive glands. On wall of alimentary canal or on wall of gut, there are three kinds of glands. Gastric glands. Second one, Brunner's glands. And the third one is crypts of Leberkun. Yeah, these are the three types of glands located on the wall of the gut. And one more thing, come to associated glands. Associated glands means these are not present in the wall of the alimentary canal, but they are associated with alimentary canal. The first one is salivary glands. Salivary glands, as I told you already, the different names of salivary glands: sublingual, submaxillary, and parotid salivary glands. And the second one is a pancreas, and the third one is liver. These glands are not found on the wall of the gut, but they are associated with the alimentary canal. That is the reason why these are named as extra alimentary canal glands. Extra alimentary canal glands or accessory glands. Yeah, let us go with the salivary glands. Salivary glands, these are kind of exocrine glands. Exocrine glands nothing but duct having glands. They have ducts. 3 pairs of salivary glands are found in man. 3 pairs. Yeah, let us go with the diagram. This is palate. This is tongue. Yeah. So I am showing the location of 3 pairs of salivary glands, and this is parotid salivary gland, parotid gland, and it is sublingual salivary gland, and this is submaxillary or submandibular glands. Submandibular glands. Come to the location. The parotid gland lies very close to the cheeks. Below the ear pinna. And come to sublingual gland. The sublingual gland lies just below the tongue. And come to the third kind. The submaxillary or sublingual gland lies at the angles of lower jaw. It lies at below the tongue. The largest salivary gland is the parotid gland. The smallest salivary gland is sublingual, smallest. These 3 pairs of salivary glands lies just away from the oral cavity, but their secretions are leads into the oral cavity. Very important point from NCERT. These 3 pairs of glands lies just beyond the oral cavity, but their secretions leads into the oral cavity. The pancreatic duct, the parotid gland leads into the oral cavity through Stenson's duct. Yeah, this is a Stenson's duct. Come to the sublingual gland. The sublingual gland leads into the oral cavity through duct of Rivinus, whereas submandibular gland leads into the oral cavity by Wharton's duct. Yeah, the duct of the parotid gland, Stenson's duct of the sublingual gland, Rivinus, and duct of the submandibular gland is Wharton's duct. So, through these ducts, the saliva released into the oral cavity, but they lie beyond the oral cavity. Remember, very important point. Yeah, this is about salivary glands. The salivary glands Each salivary gland made up of with two kinds of cells, serous cells and mucous cells. Serous cells secrete saliva and mucous cells secrete mucus. The saliva is slightly alkaline in nature, and its pH is 6.8. And the components of saliva has more amount of water, electrolytes, mucin and enzymes like ptyalin. Ptyalin is nothing but a salivary amylase or ptyalin. It is also named as alpha amylase. So the salivary amylase is named as alpha amylase. The beta amylase usually found in bacteria, fungi and certain plants. And one more enzyme, that is lysozyme. And one more electrolyte, that is thiocyanate. Lysozyme and thiocyanates. These are electrolytes. Thiocyanates and lysozymes act as antibacterial agents. These are antibacterial agents. So the antibacterial agents destroys bacteria which enters into the alimentary canal through food. And one more enzyme, that is called as lingual lipase. But lingual lipase is produced by the tongue. It is released into the oral cavity. And the most important point, listen, the salivary amylase produced by all the three pairs of salivary glands, but most portion of the salivary amylase produced by the parotid glands. Parotid glands produce large amounts of salivary amylase. Come to the saliva. The production of saliva is contributed by three pairs of salivary glands, but most amount of saliva is produced by the submaxillary gland. Submaxillary gland produces most amount of saliva. So, more amount of salivary amylase produced by the parotid glands. Parotid glands are the largest salivary glands, and sublingual glands are the smallest salivary glands. Then mumps. Mumps is a painful inflammation. It is a painful inflammation which mainly affects the parotid salivary glands. So there is a swelling of parotid glands in case of mumps. It is caused by a virus, that is a paramyxovirus. It is a RNA virus. So the paramyxovirus causes the mumps. In mumps, mainly parotid glands are affected. There is a swelling, painful swelling of parotid glands is seen in this disease. Then go with gastric glands. Gastric glands are located on wall of stomach, just beneath the surface epithelium. So just beneath the surface epithelium, numerous gastric glands are located on the wall of the stomach. The gastric glands are of three types. First one, cardiac glands. These cardiac glands produces mucus. Mucus is a glycoprotein. The mucus mainly helps in protection of wall of stomach from the hydrochloric acid. And the second gland is fundic glands. Second kind of glands, pyloric glands. The pyloric glands produces mucus plus gastrin hormone. Gastrin is a hormone produced from the epithelium of pyloric glands. The gastrin hormone stimulates the gastric glands to produce gastric juice. It is a kind of hormone. We will discuss about all these hormones at the end of the lesson. And come to mucus, is a glycoprotein, already I told you, which helps in lubrication of the food. It helps in easy passage of the food. And the third kind, fundic glands. Fundic, nothing but oxyntic glands. Fundic or oxyntic glands. The fundic glands has three kinds of cells. The first one is chief cells. Second one, peptic cells. Peptic or zymogen. Peptic cells or zymogen cells. And the third kind is oxyntic or parietal cells. Very important paragraph. NEET 2020, NEET 2019, one bit was given from this part, particularly oxyntic cells and parietal cells. The chief cells produce mucus for protection, and peptic or zymogen cells produce large quantities of inactive enzymes. Large quantities of inactive enzymes like prorenin and pepsinogen. Pepsinogen and prorenin are the inactive enzymes. So, as I told you in previous class, gen indicates its inactive form, pro also indicates. Here gen is a suffix, but here pro is a prefix. Prefix pro indicates inactive nature of the enzyme. And come to oxyntic or parietal cells, very important cells. These parietal cells produces hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid nothing but gastric acid. And one more important point is second secretion is Castile intrinsic factor. Castile intrinsic factor. The Castile intrinsic factor, it is a glycoprotein. It is a glycoprotein. So structurally it is a glycoprotein which play a very important role in absorption of vitamin B12. The vitamin B12 is chemically called as cyanocobalamin. Cyanocobalamin. So, the Castile intrinsic factor promotes the absorption of vitamin B12 from the alimentary canal. The vitamin B12 play a very important role in the maturation of RBC. Maturation of RBC. So, along with folic acid, the vitamin B12 helps in the maturation of the RBC. So, if the vitamin B12 is deficient, it leads to pernicious anemia disease. We will discuss later in vitamins. Come to hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid kills bacteria which entered into the stomach through food. And hydrochloric acid also converts inactive enzymes. Inactive enzymes into their active forms. As I told you already, enzymes are produced in their inactive forms like pepsinogen, prorenin. They must be converted into their active forms by hydrochloric acid. Pepsinogen and prorenin both are proteolytic enzymes. If hydrochloric acid is not secreted, the digestion of proteins is affected, particularly digestion of the proteins. In the stomach only protein digestion takes place. Hydrochloric acid also promotes absorption. Hydrochloric acid converts Fe3 plus into Fe2 plus, ferrous ions into ferric ions. ferrous ions into ferric ions. So, if hydrochloric acid is absent, there is no conversion of the Fe3 plus into Fe2 plus. So, by converting the Fe3 plus into Fe2 plus, the hydrochloric acid promotes absorption of iron. It makes the absorption of the iron possible. Gastrectomy. Gastrectomy or achlorhydria. Achlorhydria or gastrectomy, it is a condition in which there is no secretion of hydrochloric acid. If hydrochloric acid is not secreted, there is no absorption of iron from the alimentary canal. Then it leads to iron deficiency, named as anemia is iron deficiency. It leads to anemia. So, hydrochloric acid not only helps in the digestion of the food, it also helps in reabsorption or absorption of iron from the alimentary canal into blood. Thereby, it prevents anemia. And come to gastric lipase. Gastric lipase produced only in infants. The gastric lipase is very active until the pancreas become activated. Once the pancreas become activated, the gastric lipase is not secreted by the stomach. The gastric lipase is also secreted by the peptic cells. I told you, no, peptic cells kind of fundy glands are oxyntic glands. In the first year, we have discussed about various kinds of glands, simple glands and compound glands. Gastric glands are simple branched tubular glands. These are simple branched tubular glands. It is a diagram of simple branched tubular glands. I have given all these diagrams in the first year in epithelial tissues lesson. So, see, these are simple branched tubular glands. Yeah. Then come to intestinal glands. Intestinal glands are of two types: Brunner's glands and crypts of Leberkun. The crypts of Leberkun and Brunner's glands are the two types of intestinal glands. The Brunner's glands are compound, branched tubular glands. These are compound, branched tubular glands. Yeah, like this. It is a diagram of a compound branched tubular glands, whereas crypts of Leberkun are simple tubular glands. These are simple tubular glands. It is a diagram of simple tubular glands. Simple tubular glands, crypts of Leberkun are the simple tubular glands. Brunner's glands are the compound tubular glands. So, this is about intestinal glands. So, come to the Brunner glands. The Brunner's glands secrete mucus. The mucus acts as a lubricant which helps in lubrication of the food materials. Come to crypts of Leberkun. The crypts of Leberkun the secretions of Brunner's glands and crypts of Leberkun generally referred as intestinal juice. Intestinal juice. The intestinal juice also named as a succus entericus. Succus entericus. Succus entericus, it is a name of intestinal juice. Intestinal juice is formed by the secretions of both Brunner's glands and crypts of Leberkun. The succus entericus has different types of enzymes. It has different types of enzymes like dipeptidases, tripeptidases, aminopeptidases. These are protein digestive enzymes. Protein digested enzymes. And succus entericus also having a small amount of intestinal lipase. Intestinal lipase. And there is a enzyme activator. Enzyme activator that is named as enterokinase. Enterokinase is the enzyme activator which is produced by the intestinal glands, but which activates the enzymes of a pancreatic juice. Which activates enzymes of the pancreatic juice. And come to disaccharidases. The disaccharidases are the carbohydrate digesting enzymes like sucrase, maltase, lactase. The sucrase is also called as invertase. So sucrase, maltase, lactase, these are the disaccharidases. So they act on disaccharides like sucrose, maltose and lactose. These three enzymes are referred as breast-bordered enzymes. Breast-bordered enzymes. These breast-bordered enzymes are located on the plasma membrane of intestinal cells. Intestinal cells nothing but enterocytes. And come to pH. The pH of intestinal juice is 7.5 to 8.0. pH is 7.5 to 8.0. pH of gastric juice is 0.9 to 1.8. Highly acidic gastric juice found in stomach. Because there is hydrochloric acid. Hydrochloric acid gives acidic nature to the gastric juice. Then come to wall of intestine. The wall of intestine has intestinal glands which are nothing but the crypts of Lieberkühn. Crypts of Lieberkühn. The crypts of Lieberkühn has three cells. First one, epithelial cells. Epithelial cells secrete mucus. And the second one is Paneth cells. Paneth cells secrete enzymes. And the third one is Argentophin cells. Argentophin cells. These Argentophin cells probably secrete hormones. So Argentophin cells secrete hormones, Paneth cells secrete enzymes, and epithelial cells secrete mucus. So these are the three kinds of cells found in the crypts of Lieberkühn. On the wall of the intestine, there are some stem cells. These stem cells play a very important role in renewing of dead cells of the intestinal epithelium. When cells are damaged, generally cells are damaged during digestion because of enzymes or because of gastric juice. So when cells are damaged or died, those cells are replaced by the stem cells. These stem cells are supposed to be protected by the Paneth cells. These Paneth cells are located at the bases of the intestinal glands. Come to pancreas. Pancreas is a second largest digestive gland. It is the second largest digestive gland. It is also named as a heterocrine gland. Heterocrine or compound gland. Heterocrine or compound gland. Pancreas is usually referred as a mixed gland. The reason is it has both exocrine part and endocrine part. Exocrine part, endocrine part. The exocrine part is named as pancreatic acini. Pancreatic acini. And the endocrine part is named as islets of Langerhans. 99% of the pancreas is exocrine part. It is exocrine pancreas because it secretes pancreatic juice. Pancreatic juice. But only 1 to 2% of the pancreas is endocrine part. Islets of Langerhans, it is described by the Paul Langerhans. Paul Langerhans is the scientist name. It described about endocrine part of the pancreas in one island. So here islet stands for island. It described about endocrine part in island of Germany. Come to pancreatic acini. The pancreatic acini produces alkaline pancreatic juice. Alkaline pancreatic juice. The pH of a pancreatic juice is 8.0. Not 8.0, 8.5. 8.5 is the pH of pancreatic juice. The pancreatic juice consists of different types of enzymes like trypsinogen, chymotrypsinogen, procarboxypeptidase, pancreatic lipase, The pancreatic lipase is nothing but steapsin. Steapsin is the strongest lipase which is produced by the pancreatic juice. Then nucleases. Nucleases nothing but DNase, RNase. Yeah, these are the various kinds of enzymes produced by the pancreatic acini. Pancreatic acini is a part of pancreas. It is a particularly exocrine part. And come to endocrine part. The endocrine part secretes hormones like insulin and glucagon. Insulin and glucagon are the endocrine hormones. These endocrine hormones are produced by the endocrine part. The endocrine part is named as islets of Langerhans. And one more hormone also produced by the pancreas, that is somatostatin. No need to discuss about these hormones here. We will discuss about these hormones in endocrine system. Students, please go through the video and maintain short notes. At the same time, I will send you a PDF also, and go through the PDF. And you have to note down important points in running notes, because most of the members don't have textbooks. So it is better to maintain running notes. It's mandatory for everyone. After returning to the college, I will check you running notes. Thank you.